When I was diagnosed with cancer last year, there was a subtle wave of energy that came through that was sort of half excitement and half fear, but it never formed into a solid story of I have cancer or I'm going to die or whatever. And in the moment of the doctor saying you have cancer, I couldn't find the cancer. In other words, if it was here, something that I could experience, I knew that I'd be able to find it as I looked. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it on the charts that he showed me because it was just numbers and scribbly lines. I couldn't see it on his medical records because they were words. I couldn't see it in the words of my mind because those were just words. The word cancer is not cancer. It's just a word. I couldn't find it in any feeling in my body. Whatever feeling was there, it was just allowed to be, like without words on it. And the feeling itself wasn't cancer. Sensations as after I got surgery, even uncomfortable ones weren't cancer. They were just sensations appearing. So I couldn't find cancer during that whole period. And it was incredibly liberating and wonderful and peaceful. I remember walking out of the doctor's office after being diagnosed and feeling joy and peace, and then watching the people around me suffer because they treated cancer as something inherent and separate. They treated themselves and me as something inherent and separate, and they weren't willing to explore with me. So what I'm inviting you to do is to explore life with me, mainly using these living inquiries that we're doing, because I find them to be most potent. If you think about why we suffer, we often say we suffer because we think too much, that suffering is just about thoughts. But it's really more than that. It's actually when thoughts, which are words and pictures, feel stuck together with feelings and sensations. So if I would have been diagnosed with cancer and I would have had that word up there, and I'm going to die, or what's going to happen to me, those words, and then felt a tremendous amount of anxiety or sadness in the body as if that feeling was stuck to those words, that would have been my suffering. And not only would I have had to go through the physical demands of surgery and recovery, but I would have gone through the mental and emotional suffering. But thankfully, through the inquiry, I didn't have the mental and emotional suffering. I just had the sensations of pain, discomfort. So what I'm inviting you to do is to explore life with me. And please, don't leave anything off the table. Like whatever you think you're going through, whatever you think cannot be taken to inquiry is exactly what can be taken to inquiry. Whether you're going through divorce, whether you're losing your home, whether you're having trouble paying your medical bills, whatever it is, bring it to inquiry. I've seen people, literally, there's a story of a guy who called me and he said every night I wake up, or the last few nights I've woken up in the middle of the night completely panicked, freaking out, and one night I actually had to call the ambulance because I thought I was going to die. So all we did is we looked for the one that was going to die. We looked at it in that set of words and pictures that feel stuck to sensations and emotions. So we looked at the words, I'm going to die, and I took him through that. I had him look at those words. Are those words you, the person that's going to die? And he said yes. Even though his mind knew that they were just words, he felt something. It's because that's part of suffering. It's how we feel in the body. It's these other energies. So I brought him down into the feeling and allowed him to meet that energy of fear directly. I didn't allow him. I pointed him to do it. And he was able to feel that and then look at that energy. And I asked him, is that energy itself the one who's going to die? And he said, no, that's just energy. And we went through everything, and then he laughed for like 15 minutes. Literally, we couldn't do any more inquiry because he was laughing so hard. It's not to say that every inquiry ends in laughter, but that's a good indication of what it's like to see the unreality of the things that we think are so real, no matter what they are. Whether it's me as real, me as Scott, you, debt, bankruptcy, the presidential race, whatever. We treat these things as if they're real and solid, as if they just exist apart from what we think and feel and sense. And that's not how they exist at all. The things that we know in our life, we know them through thoughts, which are words and pictures, and feelings and sensations. And we just don't look, we don't explore. We're not taught to do it when we were kids, to explore what's really going on in our experience. We don't stop and look. So with the inquiries, we invite you to stop and look, which just means stop. Okay, so you're going through a divorce, stop and look at the words. Are those words you? Stop and look at that feeling, letting it be there. Is that you, the one who's being left? Stop and look at the picture of your wife. And this brings up incredible pain in the body, but then you move through the pain. You move through it by being with it and seeing that the pain itself is not a person who's been left behind. And to really see through that, it's like, to me, it's very visual. This isn't theoretical, it's very experiential, and it's visual. It's very something you can actually see, and I'll use my hands to show you. If these are the words and pictures that you believe are you, and these are the sensations and emotions, and you begin to explore each one, it's like seeing through it. It's literally like that. So in 1 minute you can be suffering, and the belief that this is real, or that's real, or I am this and I am that, or she is this, or that, and then you start to explore each of those component parts to see if you can find that thing that you think is real, and it just falls apart on you. Now, what does that mean? That you land in some big void? You land in some sort of transcendent space where you're disconnected and detached from all of life. That's total ridiculousness. Even if you have some void-like experience where everything falls away, that can be taken to inquiry. I can't tell you how many times I've actually worked with people who had a belief in the void, who had a belief in oneness, and their experience wasn't fresh and new. It wasn't continuing to explore what they believed. They stopped. They stopped at certain experiences of I'm in there. All there is the absolute, or all there is the void. But when we bring that to inquiry, because you're treating that as something inherently true and real and separate, it's the same thing. Let's try to find the absolute. Let's try to find the void. Is it that word? No. Is it this feeling of whatever it is? No. Is it this visual? No. Is it that sound? No. Boom. Falls apart on you. So when everything is constantly falling apart, no matter what you think or what you experience, that's impermanence. That's what Buddhists have always said is the key to freedom. Because it's in the sense that things are solid and separate, like I'm a loser. That's why we suffer. So seeing through that, you see the impermanent nature of that, but then you see the impermanent nature of everything that you come to experience on your spiritual path. Everything, every perfectly profound insight, everything that Scott Kiloby says, everything that anybody says, any of the teachers, any of the teachings can be seen through as being empty. Even what I've just said can be seen through as empty. And that's liberation.